I'm pleased to say I can speak now to Nicole Widdersheim, who's the Deputy Washington Director at Human Rights Watch and the former Director for African Affairs at the National Security Council covering Sudan and Central Africa. She joins from Washington. Welcome to you, Nicole. First of all, the fact that the RSF, which is multiple times accused of carrying out ethnic cleansing, of all kinds of atrocities against the Sudanese citizens, has agreed to have a humanitarian pause. Can you make sense of that?
Well, thank you again for covering this story. The suffering in Sudan has been going on for almost 3 years now, and it's atrocious. The RSF have agreed to many things in the past, and it seems like it's easier for them to agree to things after they've done the crimes that my organization, Human Rights Watch, has been documenting since the war broke out in about 3 years ago. And in our Damata, we saw this in West Darfur, the same level of horrendous atrocities and violence against civilians as we have seen in the last couple weeks in El-Fasher when the RSF took the town over. So while we, of course, want to see the violence stop and the fighting stopped, you can basically tell if the RSF is going to agree to a piece of paper or change their actions by what is continuing to be reported in Darfur, and that is violence against civilians to this day and within the last 24 hours.
And just to clarify, because all the accusations you tend to hear about are made against the RSF, is it true, though, that the Sudanese army has also been carrying out all kinds of crimes against its own people?
Well, we have documented indiscriminate bombing and bombing of civilian structures by the Sudanese army, obstruction of humanitarian assistance. Even as of this week, they blocked WFP or kicked them out of the country, a World Food Program, when the levels of malnutrition and food needs are astronomical. You have millions of people displaced. And you have maybe, the estimates right now coming out of El-Fasher is that somewhere between 2,000 and 7,000 people might have been killed. We don't know that because humanitarians don't have access. And the Sudanese armed forces left the town and didn't help the civilians escape or survive. So yeah, there is no clean and good actor on both sides of this war. And it's the civilians who have suffered the most and who are continually shut out of the talks that you're covering today. It might be a good thing, and it might actually stick this time, although it hasn't in the past, that the RSF lives up to what it's agreed to, a ceasefire. But where are the civilians in the mix here? Who has brought them in of all the countries, including the United States, that are talking to these belligerents and trying to get them to put the guns down? What's next? What needs to happen is that the Sudanese civilians need to be in charge of their governance, their country, and access humanitarian assistance immediately.
It's been said for a few years now that actually it's one of the worst famines taking place on the planet, what's happening in Sudan. How much aid will need to get in during any kind of ceasefire to be enough?
I think there's somewhere between 11 and 13 million displaced persons. We have heard recently from the community kitchens and the emergency response officers that the needs are immense, let alone all of the violence that we're seeing being reported out of El-Fasher. Kordofan has a grave amount of insecurity and nervousness from the civilians there. We documented severe crimes and atrocities and displacement and massive humanitarian needs in West Darfur 2.5 years ago that have not been met. We are hearing now from organizations on the ground like MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières, that they're receiving new people fleeing into Chad. And that hospitals are still getting struck with military action, presumably by the RSF. Right now, as the RSF is sitting in some capitals or somewhere saying they're going to abide by a ceasefire. So I think, the fact that humanitarian assistance has been blocked by both parties throughout this conflict means I can't fully answer that question that you're asking me about how much food is needed if all access opened up today. With the level of violence and displacement in Sudan, it is reportedly from those experts like the World Food Program and other NGOs on the ground to be the biggest humanitarian crisis right now and anywhere in the world.
Nicole, it's been good to speak to you. Thanks for shedding more light on this situation. Nicole Widdersheim is my guest, Deputy Washington Director at the Human Rights Watch.